Now I should be coming up on a stop sign, then I take a right, a left, okay. My name is Gary Waite. I'm a private investigator from the state of Wisconsin. I'm a former U.S. Marine. I'm also a former law enforcement officer for nearly 9 years. After 2 foreclosures, I understood what their game plan was. It was capture and steal the equity of the homes. Bob and Stacy Schmidt are victims of mortgage servicing fraud. So was I. I intend to stay here and be a witness to whatever the deputies may do here at this house. Hey Bob, how are you? Good seeing you.
No matter what I did, I couldn't satisfy. No matter what we did, making 10 and a half payments in 7 months and getting current. And then they held the last 2 payments, made it a 3-payment default, sent us our payments later, sent our payments back later, and foreclosed. They have unlimited pocketbooks. They pay the attorneys to delay install. I mean, that's just their game. They hope to wear us out.
The domestic terrorists are here, and they're financial.
You know, like what's happening, like you see these houses here that are boarded up, and there's an organization around here that is actually painting these boarded to kind of give the impression that somebody's living in it, and it's kind of the most bizarre thing to see.
Little person in the door.
There's people, yeah. There's and you know, this is part of the Slavic Village Neighborhood Association. I think it's doing this to kind of beautify the neighborhood, but it kind of gives it almost kind of a surreal feel of what's really happening. It's almost kind of a creepier kind of feeling. What's happening to people, I'm seeing, especially in the inner city, they're moving back in with their families. They're looking for somebody to move back in with. I remember photographing a woman last fall who had bought her home and had it paid off completely. She ended up losing her job and then ended up having to take a second mortgage to pay for the first mortgage. Fell behind on those payments. She had been in this house for a number of years and then had lost it, and it was the only thing that she had. We were able to be with her as she was trying to negotiate her mortgage, thinking that she could still, there's still an opportunity for her to save the house, and the house was already back in possession of the bank. And this photo here, she just kind of was explaining to me what her life was like after her house was foreclosed on, and she was just so frustrated because there was not a human voice on the other end that she could talk to and state her case. And she cared for her kids, her grandchildren during the day while her daughter-in-law was in school, and then Darnellis would work this second shift and would come back in and go to sleep and wake up and take care of her grandchildren all over again. She could still laugh at her situation, even though there was times when she could do nothing but cry. And on her moving day, I felt bad for her because she had no help. The only person that she had, her son, who is in the truck loading the headboard, and a friend of his, and there really was nobody else to help her make this move. And so she, you know, her situation was pretty desperate. And she had no place to store all her belongings, so she loaded up her van and also a U-Haul truck and moved it into a storage unit. And she had a ton of stuff. You know, she had all her personal belongings because she couldn't move much into her mother's house in Akron. They just filled up the storage unit with all her belongings, and I felt for her as a grandmother. You know, the outcome should have been better for her than this.
This is the business we've chosen, which was said by Hyman Roth in Godfather 2 to Michael Corleone. And if you think about it, all he was saying in that speech was, look, I didn't ask who murdered this guy, I didn't ask who did this, because I knew it was just about business.
These people are driven by money, and money is the way that they measure themselves and the way they measure their success. So there's less of a concern about the, borrower or even the investor for that matter than there is about the bonus that they're going to be making, the size of the apartment, the car that they drive, the second home, etc.
I was interviewing at a bunch of the firms, and one of the guys at J.P. Morgan, this guy's job was to sell bonds to California accounts from New York. So he'd fly out there, with his golf clubs on his back, his rented Corvette up and down the coast for 3 weeks at a time. And like I'm watching while I'm interviewing, I'm interviewing on the trading floor, so there's no holds barred here. And like one of the traders screams at him, "Hey, Mikey, back today, huh?" He goes, "Nice tan. When are you off to LA again? Is there a restaurant you could recommend that I can go to in LA? Because I know you hang out there. How about San Francisco, right?" So I'm watching this. I'm like, oh my God. And he looks at me. I'll never forget it. And he goes, "Wall Street is the place where people with the least amount of skill can make the most amount of money. Don't forget that." He goes, "A lot of people will tell you different. They're brilliant. This is where the dough is." I'm like, right-o.
Mr. Smith, know you're home. Come to the door, please.
Sheriff's office.
You're being evicted from your home. You need to stand up and hang up the phone.
Sir, you're on the
I'm going to give you 2 seconds to stand up and act like a man, or I'm going to arrest you for interfering with the police officer. You understand me? Do you understand me?
Mr. Smith,
Yes or no?
There is no federal order. This restraining order was dismissed. It's no good.
Excuse me, Captain.
And I checked this morning.
Stand up, sir.
Ma'am, I'm
Stand
sorry,
up, sir.
she's busy.
Stand up. You're under arrest for interfering with the police officer. You understand?
All right.
Em, what's wrong? No, what is wrong? If it's one of my kids, what's wrong? What? Oh, God.
The longer I'm going to have to do this.
Don't do it, Jimmy. Derek.
I didn't do nothing. Put your hands behind your
He
back.
didn't do anything. They're arresting my son. They put my husband in the back of a cop car.
Come here, boy. You got a problem, too? You got a problem?
Don't you do it!
You are under arrest. Well, as long as I have to screw with him, you need to be quiet.
Yes.
He's fine. Hey, Jada.
I'm so sorry. I can't believe it. I can't believe it.